friends, my name is Matthew Rain, and this is Sustainable Rain, which is a channel going to be talking about all things sustainability, everything from climate justice to food insecurity to climate change itself. And it's a really important topic because, well, our planet is in deep peril, and someone needs to do something about it. So that's what I plan to do, and I hope you do as well. Make sure to follow my Twitter. A link is in the description below. It's @SustainableRain. And today we're going to be talking about something that's really important. It's will climate change doom us and the planet? Kind of a heavy topic, but certainly one that we need to talk about because there are a lot of stupid people out there who don't believe in climate change, and that's okay. Actually, it's not okay. We're not okay. But we're going to be talking about those people and how we can solve this issue. So the first clip I want to play for you is everyone's favorite conservative radio host, Rush Limbaugh. So give it a listen.
I have a theory about global warming and why people think it's real. Go back 30, 40 years when there was much less air conditioning in the country. When you didn't have air conditioning and you left the house, may in fact have gotten a little cooler out there because sometimes houses become hot boxes. 30, 40 years later, all this air conditioning. And it's a huge difference when you go outside. When you go outside now, my golly, is it hot. Oh, global warming.
So look, obviously, Rush is kind of crazy. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, he's sort of at like 11. I'm sure there's a few people out there crazier than him. But in any case, his theory is talking about how he believes the fact that people have gotten used to air conditioning means that they feel it's hotter outside, and thus they feel that global warming is real because they feel it's hotter outside. I'm sort of sorry to bring it to you, Rush. It's not really how it works. Well, let's see. Year in and year out, our climate is getting warmer and warmer and warmer. But not just that for global warming, but you have devastating effects of climate change happening all across the world, not even to mention just the year in and year out of global warming. So, but look, these are the type of people that we're up against.
Now look, we know Donald is sort of off his rocker, but when it comes to climate change, he really just doesn't know what he's talking about. His tweet here, the concept of global warming was created by the Chinese in order to make U.S. manufacturing non-competitive. I mean, that's just simply false. The next one, ice storm rolls in from Texas to Tennessee. I'm in LA and it's freezing. Global warming is a total, very expensive hoax. Okay, no. It's snowing and freezing in NYC. Whatever the hell happened to global warming? I just simply don't think he realizes that because it snows and it's cold on a particular day, that doesn't mean that global warming trends aren't observed. There's a difference, and this is some very basic science, there's a difference between weather and climate, and it's very clear that Mr. Trump does not recognize that very simple difference. Weather is a day-to-day phenomenon. It could be snowing one day, it could be sunny the next day. That's weather. Climate is trends over time, and what we've seen over time is that the Earth is getting warmer and warmer and warmer, and you have nincompoops like our incoming president who simply choose to ignore that fact, and it's quite unfortunate. The first question Gallup asked was, about Americans' perception of global warming as a serious threat. So they asked, do you think that global warming will pose a serious threat to you or your way of life in your lifetime? And never throughout the history of the poll have they found that Americans believe this in a majority. Recently, it's been the highest it's ever been at 41%, but you still have 57% of Americans who do not believe global warming will pose a serious threat in their lifetime, and this is very concerning. We're already seeing the really devastating effects of global warming happening already in terms of, you have ocean acidification, you have people being displaced by rising seas. and it is going to affect you one way or another. Next question Gallup asked was about Americans' views on whether the effects of global warming will occur. And interestingly enough, 59% of those polled believe that global warming has already happened. It's already begun. And so when you compare that with the last poll, I mean, it's incredibly fascinating when you have, well, a majority of Americans believe it won't affect them, but they also believe that it's begun. And this is something that needs to be addressed. You have 31% in 2016 who say it will happen, and 10% who say it will never happen. So there is room to change people's opinions and change people's minds, which is certainly good news. But it is concerning to have a large majority of people who believe it's already begun, but don't feel concerned about it. The next question Gallup asked was, how much do you worry about global warming? And in 2016, an 8-year high, 64% said they worry a great deal / fair amount about global warming compared to 36% who say only little, not at all. Now, if you notice sort of the graph, it really does fluctuate. People's opinion on global warming and climate change sort of just goes up and down. There's a lot of people out there who just don't really have an opinion. They're not really sure what they believe. Maybe they believe that we're polluting and we're spewing CO2 into the atmosphere, but it really doesn't affect them. You know, I mean, there's a lot of differing views, but it is good news that it's back at 64%, but it could easily be back down to the 51% it was in 2011. Now, this final chart Gallup took looks at the changes in 2015 versus 2016 in Americans' perceptions of global warming. I mentioned some problems with the 2016 numbers in that it's highly variable. Again, next year it could go down. So for argument's sake, we're going to use the 2015 numbers. So when we look at the 2015 numbers real quick, we can see that the conclusion is that more than 2/3 of Republicans that year who were polled don't believe climate change poses a serious threat to our world. That's a huge issue. So according to Pew Research Center, we have 44% of registered voters who identify or lean Republican. So let's do some quick math here. There are 146,311,000 registered voters in the United States, which means that if we apply our polling from Gallup and Pew to the general population, in 2015, there were approximately 44,420,019 registered Republicans who aren't worried about climate change.
Look, applying a specific poll to the general population is far from an exact science, but the vast number gives one an idea of what policymakers are up against. When you have that large contingent of individuals who simply does not believe in something that is scientific fact, there's a problem. They're not going to be voting for politicians who care about these issues, and the opposite effect is that they're going to vote for politicians who believe climate change is a myth, like the wonderful Senator James Ihofe, who famously brought a snowball into the Senate, and if you haven't seen it, check it out.
In case we have forgotten, because we keep hearing that 2014 has been the warmest year on record, I asked the chair, you know what this is? It's a snowball, and that's just from outside here. So it's very, very cold out, very unseasonal. So here, Mr. President, catch this.
So look, the senator's bringing up the same argument again, that, well, it's snowing outside in D.C., so how does global warming exist when I have this snowball in my hand? And he tosses it to the Senate president. I mean, it's unbelievable. But again, this is what we are up against. This is what I'm up against. This is what my family and friends are up against. This is what you are up against. We're up against people who elect policymakers into Congress who are willing to bring a snowball into the Senate as proof that global warming does not exist. So, look, in conclusion, will climate change ignorance doom us? Maybe. It depends. It depends on whether we are willing to elect people who believe in climate change and who are willing to act on these issues. It is simply not enough to tweet. It is simply not enough to make videos. We have to go out, we have to register voters. You have to make sure that we're electing people who care about these issues. And finally, we have to work around those who are ignorant. Look, there's going to be variability in whether people believe in climate change or not. That's sort of a given. But the fact remains that there is a large contingent out there who just simply chooses to ignore the scientific fact of climate change. Not only you have individuals who believe this, but you have large corporations, you have the Koch brothers, you have ExxonMobil, you have Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State. So is there hope for a future? Of course there's hope for a future, but we have to act on that. We simply cannot stand back and watch everything go by and watch our world burn. So I'm looking forward to fighting for what I believe in and fighting for a future for this planet, and I hope you are too. And I also hope you enjoyed the video, my first one, so the quality's not going to be amazing yet, but I hope to continue to make the quality better. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.